It is me, Mr. Consistent. Today, I will be going over the Shadow Hunter, and I know, rolling your eyes, why are you using the overused class that everyone uses? It's boring as hell, la la la, use my main. In my defense, this is my second most used class ever, so I'm going to be using the Shadow Hunter, and I'm also very curious to see how the Shadow Hunter works after 55,000 power rank, of course, as you're seeing right there, 48,000 power rank, so I will be doing some gem swappings and some upgrades real quick. And then just giving some of my initial reaction, and then of course we'll be doing the whole commentary like the usual on the other 55,000 power rank. Alright, 57 KPR. Stats, if you want to see them, let's go. Actually forgot to get the mantra. Now there you go, those are the stats actually. I've heard many people say that the Shadow Hunter is bad, so let's see how it works. A little bit on the lower end on the kill time, as that, yep, that's just Shadow Hunter in a nutshell with curse close. Definitely noticed the kill time being a little bit, okay, never mind. I was expecting the kill time to be a little bit on the slower end, because Shadow Hunter is usually one of those classes, but yeah, nope. And it's still as ridiculous as ever when it comes to building speed and one-shotting bosses. God damn! Most definitely you will need to be using all of the other abilities, which is a weird concept for Shadow Hunter players. Jesus. That's the insane part. This is still a speed farming build, so this is technically the lowest damage that I can get with this character. Just focus fully on speed. The super overpowered Shadow Seekers. Alright, time to check the delves now, which I would assume this is going to be where the Shadow Hunter falters a little bit. I forgot to change my gems, god damn it. I guess I'll be running with Vampire and Vanquisher instead of just running around with Berserk Battler. Oh, Slowfall, why are you so the low amount of blocks is going to be probably a detriment to a lot of players. Feels a little bit faster than I originally anticipated, but it is 170. See a boss. Throw a Shadow Seeker for quick burst and delete. Shadow Hunter ability still can do quite the hefty amount of damage. Gotta love the Trove hit detection. Enemy just used the final technique, just moving 2 inches to the side. The Trove hit detection was like, it's like, oh no, we don't need any complicated mechanic. We just need to move to the side and the game will do the rest. Ah, there we go, the classic, the 1 volt depth stepper. They really need to change how the whole mechanic actually works. Is this a gladiator? This is a gladiator kraken. Okay, apparently I'm healing way faster than it can do any type of damage, so this is something interesting. The lifesteal is just way too strong on this character because it's constantly just hitting the enemy, so it's not draining any of my... Okay, I got that glitch. Hey, awesome. Well, that's it for the live commentary portion. Take it away, future me. Let me know if you liked it in the comment section down below. I might do a little bit more if I decide to do another character, but we all know I am Mr. Consistent. That might not happen ever, or it might just happen next month, or it could just happen next week. I don't know. That's just me how it is. Anyways, after using the Shadow Hunter a little bit more in Longshade, I managed to boil down some of my own personal opinion on the Shadow Hunter right now. I discovered some little things here and there. Of course, this is going to be mainly focusing on Longshade, not on the delves. Don't use this class for deep delving. It is never built for delving. This is no exception even with the Mystic Gem. As for Longshade, it's a different story. It is definitely a class that needs good stat. This is not the Knight, this is not the Revenant. This does not have a consistently high burst damage, which halfway through the recording I did switch out to Scorpius to help out with a little bit of extra burst damage. The Shadow Hunter can have a high burst damage, but it's definitely not consistent. It takes a lot of getting used to if you want to be effective. Now, to everyone that does not like the Shadow Hunter, which is a lot of people, because at the end of the day they find it boring and all you do is just hold down one button, well, I got some news for you. If you are not maxed out and if you want to be efficient and effective with this class, then you will have to learn to use the other ability. I know, crazy concept. Shadow Hunter using the other ability, what the hell is this? A pay-to-win DLC? Because the basic attack, while it is a decent basic attack, 2 times damage multiplier, 12 attacks per second, it is below average a little bit in terms of damage. It is the fastest basic attack in the game, but it is single target, and you will definitely notice the single target struggles sometimes, especially when the bosses spawn minions and curse goals and such. It is still capable of getting insane high speed and building up a lot of momentum because it can still kill regular enemies relatively quickly, but of course for like major bosses like 3-star bosses and curse gold, then you will definitely notice a dip in damage if you're not rocking either a damage build or if you're not completely maxed maxed out. So slap some energy regeneration and get to using all of those other abilities on this class because it's going to be a big help. Let's start talking about the abilities. First of all, the Shadow Seekers. Essentially anything that is high HP, this is going to be the ability that you will be using a whole lot. The damage is so high that it makes absolutely no sense. If you're wondering, this ability will do more damage depending on how many arrows you threw at the first place, which starts as little as 3.5 times damage if you do have one Shadow Seeker to 9 times damage multiplier per arrow. And there's 5 arrows. And it does 50% critical damage bonus. It's so dumb. That's 45 times damage multiplier with 150% bonus damage if it crits, which is the equivalent of like 67.5 times damage. No wonder it one-shots. Granted, you will not be using this ability all the time because it is not available all the time, since you need to get the Seekers first by hitting enemies with the basic attack that has been Shadow Mark. I know it's an awkward ability to use, but it will help immensely. My advice is that if you want this ability to work like consistently, just stand next to your target, use the Seeker, and it will detonate as fast as possible. As a Shadow Seeker, next up is Sun Snare. This is definitely an ability that a lot of you should be very familiar, hopefully, because this is one of the most broken abilities for speed farming at lower portals. It is a no cooldown 3.5 times damage multiplier with a 4 block proximity and radius, which is insane if you actually think about it. So you can essentially just free fire every single curse skull that is available. The only drawback is that it costs 65 energy, which is the reason why I personally use energy regeneration on the Shadow Hunter. This ability is really good for like low portal because you can essentially just throw down this snare before the enemies even spawn, and then as soon as the enemy spawn they will take damage. And if it is on the lower portal, that means that it's going to one-shot every single enemy as soon as they spawn. However, the lower damage per hit is going to be something that you will not see one-shotting with this ability, with the exception of swarms, which is still very ridiculous. I am aware that a maxed out with damage build, you can one-shot regular enemies inside Curse Skull, but for the most part you will be killing enemies with 2 or 3 Sun Snare. With the build that I have is 3 Sun Snares, even with Scorpius. 2 Sun Snare would have been at least the ideal one. 3 is alright. If it takes more than that, then I will just say that your stats are a little bit too low. It's still useful to throw it down every so often because it can still stun, and if it hits an enemy, it will Shadow Mark every single enemy that it gets hit, which will allow you to do a little bit more damage with your basic attack due to the explosion. And also getting the Shadow Seekers, of course, it helps exponentially. Very important to always use it. And lastly is the Sacred Arrow. The Sacred Arrow, the ultimate ability, is another ability that you might not think is useful, but in reality this is an ability that you should be using on bosses the moment that you have it available. Because the thing is that you don't need to hold down this ability or use all of your Sacred Arrow if you want to be using this ability effectively. You can easily just throw down 1 to 2 arrows immediately, and if you have attack speed, which I would just recommend to use instead of critical damage, you can just throw down 2 arrows relatively quickly, because as soon as it does the initial contact, which does 5.5 times damage multiplier, it still also applies a damage over time that does 4.5 times damage per second for 7 seconds, and it's stacking damage over time. So if you do hit with 2 of them, it's going to do 2 damage over time essentially per second, which is really good for bursting bosses down, and it is going to be very effective. All of those abilities, if you haven't noticed, are going to help out with major bosses or world bosses, which I feel is going to be the big problem with the Shadow Hunter, unfortunately, because this basic attack is not strong enough to carry you if you do have the lower stats. So using all of the other ability is going to help you deal with higher HP bosses like 3 stars and bonus HP world bosses. So regular enemies, you can still delete them rather quickly with just basic attack and just activating martial emblems. So shouldn't be a problem. Curse Skull and building speed, you can again just use your basic attack. You don't need to use your other abilities, but if you want, those are helpful. Just throw down a Sun Snare, use your basic attack for Curse Skull, and in swarms just throw down some snares, and that's it, because it's ridiculous for swarms. But definitely on bosses, using your other ability is going to make a huge difference in terms of kill time, because right now, if you're not maxed out and if you don't have a full damage build, playing the character normally is not going to cut it if you want to speed farm properly. You have to be a little bit more creative with this class if you want to be efficient, which is again very weird concept considering the Shadow Hunter is not known for that. Basic attack, Sun Snare is a good for combination for Curse Skull, other abilities for bosses if you want to burst it down, and in the case of the Seeker, one-shotting. Give it a shot. I know the Shadow Hunter has been getting quite the reputation of being an awful class, but in reality it's not that bad. It's a great all-around class, obviously insanely good for lower portal, and it's still pretty good for endgame dungeons. Never great for delving, and even with higher PR, with higher stat, doesn't change that fact, but it's definitely not as awful as people may let you to believe. And yeah, that's the Shadow Hunter. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to do all the stuff that content creators like and no one ever does. Also, let me know what you think of this class in the comment section down below and if any of these tips help you out. And once again, thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time. Take care, keep on hunting, and hope to see you soon with another class.